does God hate us using social media? We're also going to be looking at, unpacking, and exploring and talking about the future of the church and the future of youth ministry. And finally, we are going to help kind of lean into this idea of hybrid ministry. What is it? How do we implement it? What are the downsides of it? And lastly, we're going to offer 3 practical tips to help you win in your church and in your student ministry. And as always, there will be game ideas because that's just a part of the thing. The church is at this crossroads where they need to look at, unlock, and unleash the next generation, because the next generation is the church of today, not the church of the future. Gone are the days of the one-size-fits-all youth ministries, and so we need to help explore and unlock for you what's going to work in your context. It's about us learning diversity, creativity, and leaning into the individuality of each and every one of our students. And to kind of help do that, to kind of help lean into the creativity, this is why I believe that the digital space is such a great opportunity for us. In fact, I have a done-for-you resource if you are just kind of floundering and have no idea where to go. And that's what we talked about in this video that's going to be linked right here at the top of the screen. TikTok versus Instagram versus YouTube, because we are going to help you navigate the best social media to go all in on in your context, as well as give you a free ebook that's linked right down here below in the description to help you navigate social media for your church and for your student ministry. But without any further ado, let's dive into this episode, the future of the church, the future of youth ministry, and what exactly is hybrid ministry. Let's go. Well, hey everyone, welcome to the Hybrid Ministry Show. If you and I haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Nick Clayson. I am a almost 13-year youth ministry veteran, currently living and working in the DFW Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I am on a mission to help churches and youth ministries realize their potential for what they can do with digital ministry and in the digital space. In fact, that's why I have this entire podcast, this entire YouTube channel. In fact, if you didn't know, we are a podcast, so you can check out the show notes for a link to our full transcripts at hybridministry.xyz. But you might be asking, what even is hybrid ministry? What even does that mean? And it's a little bit of a made-up word, I would say. But, you know, the idea of a hybrid thing, I think about it as a football fan. I think about Taysom Hill of the New Orleans Saints, right? He's a hybrid style player. He can play quarterback. He can get under center. He can snap the ball and throw it. But he's also got some kind of tight end skills, some kind of H-back type skills. Or as an old-timey Colts fan, Dallas Clark was a great hybrid or H-back style of player, right? He didn't fit into like a one-size-fits-all mold, and that's really my heart behind what I think hybrid ministry is. Another really great example, I've used it before, so if you're a long-time listener, you've maybe heard it, but the idea of Home Depot, right? When I am a customer of Home Depot. And so if on any given Saturday, I'm just feeling super dad and I want to throw on my cargo shorts and my New Balance shoes and just go peruse the aisles of Home Depot, I can do that. I can experience Home Depot in a physical sense. However, at the same time, if I don't have time to do that and I just want to place an order online, I can jump on their app and I can do that as well. But the third option is probably my favorite, is a hybrid relationship with Home Depot, where I grab my cell phone, I download their app while I'm in the store, I search for the thing I need, it tells me the exact aisle and bay number and location of my thing, and I can walk straight there. I have a digital relationship with Home Depot while I am physically in the store at the physical location. And I think in a lot of cases, that's the way that our churches need to start just thinking about, because in a lot of times we, especially with COVID, we did not have the physical as an option. And so we all moved to digital, and it was an amazing opportunity. I think a lot of churches learned a lot. I think a lot of churches are still doing things now as a result of what happened during the pandemic. But now as restrictions have lifted and people have gone more and more back into church on a regular basis, churches have been like, that stunk, let's go back to what we know. And there's so much value in what can happen in an interpersonal relationship. Please, I want you to hear that from me. I want you to know my heart. But I also believe that, you know this, right? There are 168 hours per week in any given week, but most churches really only focus on the 1 or 2 hours that you have a programmed, scheduled event. It's like the evening news, or it's like sitcom appointment television. Like, if you want to know what's going on in this series, then you better be here at 10:30 a.m. That's the only time that you're ever going to know what we're talking about. And honestly, let's be honest, churches, that is a really selfish and kind of vain approach. Like, the only way for people to grow is to make your thing appointment calendaring in their life. And that's just not the world that we live in anymore. You're going to have people do that. And because you do have some people do that, you think everybody should adopt that approach. Meanwhile, there are people who do want to grow in their faith and do want to have a relationship with you and your church. However, their schedule may not allow for it. Like, I know this coming Saturday, we are hosting the National Day of Youth Ministry Volunteer Training by DYM. Shout out DYM. But the problem is my boys have their very first game of T-ball. And so, unfortunately, my wife can't, as a super rock star volunteer that she is, she's not going to be able to make a portion of that training. Does that mean that she doesn't care about youth ministry and teenagers and her role in our church? Not at all. She's busy. She's got something else going on. And so we always have to think and accommodate for that. And I think a lot of times churches are just like, you need to prioritize this. And that's true. Hear me say that. I believe that our people need to prioritize the things of God. However, I also believe that we are now in a time and in a space in 2023 and beyond where we can offer things to people that they can consume, that they can learn, that they can come to understand, that they can gather teachings about the importance of what our church is doing, what our church is offering in a hybrid type of moment. They have an in-person relationship with our church, but they can lean into the digital. And I think a lot of churches are approaching digital as the outreach arm, and that's really all it does. And then once you've come and decided to commit to the church, then you have to shift to completely in person. And I just want to tell you, I don't live that way. I got a speeding ticket last week. It was awful. I was going way too fast in a zone that should have been a much faster speed limit, but it's a speed trap. And after paying $346 yesterday, I had the option to call, to go in person, or to go online to remedy that, right? Guess which option I chose? Just like all of you, I chose the online option. If there's a way to do it where it can be more convenient and it doesn't hinder the relationship, and I think that's what we need to do. So hybrid, it's not just about in-person, or it's not just about digital. It's about finding a way to marry those two environments so that people can have a holistic and much more robust relationship with your church. Hey, listen, I hope you're getting value out of this video, and we're going to continue on. We have all kinds of other videos like this, and so it would be incredible if you hit the subscribe button so that you get notified every single time we drop a video like this. And listen, it costs you nothing, but a like really does help us out. So if you would like this video, and maybe even share this along with a friend or someone else that you know who's a youth pastor or a church communications person, because we are on a mission to help churches lean into the hybrid side of their ministry. But let's move on and let's answer this next question. Does God hate social media, and what is there, if there is a biblical basis for leaning into digital and hybrid ministry? Let's check it out. So I know a lot of pastors, I know a lot of people, I know a lot of church leaders who encourage people to lean away from digital media, social media, as a means of discipleship and a means of growth. And I think in a lot of cases that's really a healthy practice for a lot of people. I think with unfettered, unfiltered access to just doom scrolling social media time and time again, which I actually didn't mean to turn, oh look, there's me. I didn't mean to turn my phone on and doing that. But when people just do that over and over and over again, I know that it is not healthy. There are some definite downfalls and some definite perils to doing that. However, I also know that I need this thing to keep track of my calendar. I need that thing to read email. I need that thing to track my receipts. I need that thing to get me somewhere in a turn-by-turn GPS navigation system. That thing right there is where my wife and my's grocery list lives. Like, it lives in a digital format on our phone that we both have access to, like a shared list. And so this thing is going nowhere. And so instead of just like coaching people to throw it in the fire and be done with it, while that may be what some people need to do, I think we also need to begin to think about how can we help coach people through having a cell phone. Like, yes, there are bad and evil things on cell phones. If you have a teenage boy, a teenage girl, like the pitfalls of pornography and what is available to them in their pocket at any given moment is dangerous. However, that's not going anywhere for them. And unless mom and dad want to rip that away from them, they are going to have a cell phone. So how do we help them walk through and wade through the difficulties of that reality, while also realizing that in many cases, this is a necessary commodity for most people in America in 2023 and beyond? I do actually believe that the Bible speaks about this. And one of my favorite kind of passages of it, obviously it's not directly, talking about cell phones and digital media because that didn't exist, but the principle I do believe exists. So in Jeremiah chapter 29, which is everyone's favorite bookstore Bible verse, Jeremiah 29:11. We're going to read it here in just a second, but actually starting in verse 5 is where we're going to start reading so that you, for perhaps the first time in your life, can get to hear Jeremiah 29:11 in its full context. But Jeremiah is writing to the Babylonian people who are in exile he's writing to the Jewish people who are in exile in Babylon. So God's people are in a foreign land, and he addresses their concerns. Here's what he says: I want you to build homes. I want you to plan to stay. I want you to plant gardens, eat the food that they produce, marry and have children, and then find spouses for them so that they may have many grandchildren. Multiply, don't dwindle away, and work for the peace and the prosperity of the city where I sent you into exile. Pray to the Lord for its welfare, and it will determine then ultimately your welfare. Verse 8 says, this is what the Lord of the heavens armies, the God of Israel says, do not let your prophets and fortune tellers who are with you in Babylon trick you. Do not listen to their dreams because they are telling you lies in my name. I have not sent them, says the Lord. This is what the Lord says. You will be in Babylon for 70 years, but then I will come and do for you all the good things I have promised, and I will bring you home again. For I know the plans, here it is, guys, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, the plans for good, not for disaster, to give you a future and hope. I think that what God is basically saying in this verse is he's saying, invest in the place in which I have placed you. And he's saying, embrace the things of the land, of the place, of the climate, of the context of which I have placed you. And to the Jewish people, that meant plant gardens, intermarry, have children, have grandchildren, pray for the prosperity of Babylon because that will determine and dictate the prosperity of you and your life. And in a lot of the same ways, I believe that technology is the opportunity for us to enter into a digital landscape and a digital Babylon, so to speak. And so we have the chance to lean into it. We have the chance to go towards what the people of our day are using and navigating, and we have the chance to redeem it. We have the chance to bring light into it. We have the chance to sprinkle in, and even more than just sprinkle, but fully embrace and bring the great message of hope of the gospel into a digital and hybrid space. And most of the times, the pastors that I have interacted with are saying cell phones are bad and evil because most people have really bad habits with it. And so they're saying, so just don't do it. You don't need it. You don't need a digital Bible. Go get your paper Bible. And I'm just saying, listen, if you're a youth pastor and you're ministering to a 13-year-old who just got a new cell phone, that's really not going to play very well to them. And I'm not saying that we should just cater to people. Discipleship is difficult, and often we get the root word discipline from it. And so it's going to require some hard and difficult conversations. But all that being said, we are not going to successfully push people away from it. And I get it. Just because, should we cater to bad habits? Absolutely not. But there's a lot of good that can happen on here. Like right now, I play fantasy football through my cell phone. Because of fantasy football, I have connections with people that I have worked with in the past. My family, who lives in 3 continents on this globe, we play fantasy football together, and we connect through this. My church staff right now, we have 30 people on our church staff playing fantasy football that I am kind of spearheading and leading, and that's helping bring about some camaraderie among our staff. I read the Bible this morning on the Bible app through a plan that I subscribe to on my phone. A lot of times when I don't have, and I read that on my iPad, and if I don't have my iPad, I will read it on my phone. One of my favorite apps on here is the Bible verse memory app, right? My point is that there's a lot of good that can happen through this. And I think we a lot of times want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So let's lean in. Let's teach people how to navigate and make wise decisions and choices as they interact with digital and cell phone media. So the question that you're probably asking then, if you're a youth pastor or church communications person, is how do I invest in an online presence? What do I do? And I want to let you know, before we dive into that if any of this is interesting to you, if any of this is ringing a bell, if any of this is like perking your interest, that we have a website, hybridministry.xyz. And this episode is episode 67. So if you go to hybridministry.xyz/067, link is also down below in the description, along with my 40 free ideas for how to lean into digital ministry. You can get full transcripts. That's one thing that we provide completely for free in every single episode. In case you're like out on a run and you're hearing this and you're like, dude, I need some of that. I need to take some notes and filter some of my thoughts around some of what we're listening to in this episode. Great. We got that for you. Link in the description, hybridministry.xyz/067. But let's explore and let's answer and tackle this question. How do you invest into your online presence? I have 3 ideas for you to help invest more into your online presence. One idea is just up your game in your social media and your digital media presence. And so that can be all kinds of different things, like your social media. Does that mean that your church or your student ministry has a poppin' Instagram account? I mean, maybe. Or is it that you launch a relevant YouTube channel? Maybe. Or is it that you're surfing on the TikTok trends out there on that app, TikTok? Could be. But whatever it is, there is an opportunity to weave in social media, not only to your church attenders, but also to people out there in the world who don't know anything about you, your church, or your student ministry. But my ultimate number 1 recommendation, especially if you're in youth ministry, and if not, I still recommend this for a lot of churches, is YouTube. And what I actually have is a link in the description for how you can launch and start a YouTube channel for under $100, which, by the way, in 2023 is completely unheard of. So you should definitely get in on that. But what it's going to do is it's going to help you utilize and start a channel simply using your cell phone, upping and leveling up your game with some microphone gear and maybe some basic lighting to just get the ball rolling so that you can have a YouTube channel. And the reason why I believe YouTube is such a strong contender is, especially if you're a youth pastor, 95% of teenagers claim to use and utilize YouTube. Meanwhile, people are getting on there and think about it. How do you engage and interact with YouTube? You probably hopped on there recently and said, how do I fix this clogged sink in my guest bathroom, right? People are getting on there and asking specific questions. And while you may be trying to figure out how to unclog your sink, a 13-year-old might be saying, why does God send good people like my grandmother to hell? And you as a youth pastor have an opportunity to address and answer that particular and specific question. Now tell me that that's not an amazing opportunity. We posted a video on our church's social media, our church's YouTube, the beginning of the school year called How to Ruin Your School Year. I think maybe we did the opposite of it, how to not ruin your school year. And it got like 150 views. And our audience is really not that big on YouTube. And I mean, we have, we have at least 150 students on our roll and on our roster, but I know that not all of our students are subscribed to our YouTube, are even really paying attention to our YouTube. So those 150 views did not all come from our students. My question is, would you like an opportunity as a youth pastor to have greater kingdom impact than you have currently right now in your local physical context? Maybe the answer is no, but I would wonder why the answer to that would be no. Like, sure, you can't nuance and go as deep, but dude, that was like a 12-minute video. Like, I had enough ability to flesh things out and flesh out ideas and explain things fully and thoroughly that, like, you might have to leave on the cutting room floor of, say, a more short form, vertical video based TikTok or YouTube short or something like that. There is opportunity. Really, there is out there to answer specific questions of teenagers. And YouTube is powered by Google, the number one largest search engine of the world. And people consider YouTube to be the second largest search engine in the world. So put answers to the questions that people are going to the second largest search engine in the world in there, trying to get answers to big matters of faith and existential realities. Like, you have a chance to do that. And like I said, link in the description down here that will help you get your YouTube channel up off the ground with just a minimal amount of gear, talking head just like this video, into a cell phone camera. The third idea that I have for you are some hybrid-based games. If you're in youth ministry, you know the value of games. But one of my favorite things we do is brackets. So if you like March Madness style, if you're a sports person, you got 64 teams. We'll do a 16-team bracket. We'll rank things kind of arbitrarily with our own sort of like value-based ranking system. We have a platypus mascot in our student ministry, and that was voted on competing against 16 other animals. So we had like a yak, and we had a lamb, which was a 16 seed, which almost won and upset the number 1 seed. A lion, we had a baboon on there, and what ultimately won was the platypus. I think that's the generation of Phineas and Ferb talking. One of my favorite brackets, I actually have a couple on Download Youth Ministry. I'll put the link to those in the descriptions if you want to go check them out or create your own. But we will do a Super Bowl food or big game day food bracket so that students can self-select what snacks are going to be at the Super Bowl party in just a couple weeks at the time of this recording. So probably by the time this drops, it'll be happening live. Feel free to go check it out at Cross Creek Students. That's all of our handles on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. But we are going to be launching the world's greatest donut bracket, and it's going to be students selecting the world's greatest donut. Here's the cool thing, though. We just paid for, I don't know, a couple $100 banner to be installed in one of our walls that we can reuse and replicate every single time we run a bracket, because we'll probably do 2 or 3 of these a year, where we can hang it in our physical space. So as students walk in, they'll see it, but then the push is for them to jump on Instagram and cast their vote, right? Jump on social media and let it be known what they're going to be voting for. And so that's just a way to, right? That's a way to be hybrid. We're talking about it, announcing it, making it a big deal in our physical space, but we're giving students even a chance to vote physically on a piece of paper, but then we're also pushing it towards digital media. Like, those things get a ton of traction in our context. People talk about it, especially on staff. People are like, which one won? How did you rank that one? That, like, it incites a little bit of faux riot. Okay. Another thing is like we'll do a lot of we'll do some things called like social challenges. I'll link the playlist that we do on that on YouTube, but we'll grab a couple of students every single Wednesday night, film them on camera, and then post that to YouTube. We'll clip it up into a short, and that'll be something that we can post on shorts as well. But like, that gives students a chance to compete in certain challenges, or like Taskmaster, type challenges. Again, that's a way to like use the students in your physical space and promote and pump them up on your digital platforms. And other things you can do game-wise is like just, create like some sort of contest where there's like a drawing contest or a sculpture contest or a dancing contest or whatever. You can post those on social media and let people vote, cast their vote. Like, did you like A or B better, right? Like gingerbread houses, or we'll do like Play-Doh sculpture things. I have a game on DYM called Sculpt It, and we've done before. It's really fun. But we post all of those on social media, and then we let people cast their vote for the winner. And then the next time we get together, the next week or that following Sunday, we'll give away a prize to the winning team or the winning table for their contribution in that game, right? Those are just ways to kind of marry your in-person with your online and make it more hybrid, make it last beyond the 1 hour a week that you have your students in your student ministry. Another idea, so that's just like, upping your digital presence game. And hey, like I said, link in the description for 40 ideas, 40 done-for-you ideas in vertical video-based content like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels that you can start adopting now. And all of those ideas, by the way, are ideas that are recyclable. So, for example, you can use the same, like I just posted a game. We're calling it telepathy, but you can name it whatever you want to name it. I got it from some guys on YouTube Shorts who call it wavelength. But one guy's thinking of a number, and the other guy's asking him for certain categories of things. So like the one I just posted, they asked for candy, sport, clothing brand, and day of the week. And then you give an item that is that number that's in your head, right? So my buddy was thinking of number 3. And she said candy, and he said black licorice, which I think it's probably lower than a 3 if you ask me, but that's just me. And then she said, okay, how about sport? And he said golf. And then she said, okay, how about like sport or like athletic wear? And he said New Balance. And then she said, how about day of the week? And he said Tuesday. She guessed that the number was 4, but it was really 3 in his head, right? That's just a fun game. You can do a little bit of post-production editing if you want. Even if you have no editing skills, you can do most of that on your cell phone to make that happen. By the way, I have a complete ebook, another one on how to post a TikTok from scratch. I will also link that down below in the description. But all these are ways for you to just start taking steps to up your game in your social media. All right, the other idea, what about, so that's digital presence. What about web access, right? Is your website up to date? That's all I'm asking. Is your website up to date? And there's this idea, do we push info to people or do we ask them to pull it for themselves? And I believe that we should do both, but I believe that you can push info, but people should always know that the answer to every single one of their questions lies on the website. So yes, send that Tuesday email reminding them about the fundraiser coming up on Saturday, but let them know that like in the email, hey, all this info is available on our website, so that when Friday night rolls around and the mom and dad are thinking about how to get their kids where they need to go on Saturday, and they know that one of the kids is going to the fundraiser at church, they have to figure out where they are, what time they have to drop them off. They don't have to go dig back through their email that they've gotten 125 other spam emails between Tuesday and Friday night. They can just go straight to your website. Is your church website up to date? If you listen, people live in an on-demand world. They're not relying on your email to give them the information that they need. They want to be informed, but then they also they want to know where to go to get what they need information wise. So make sure your website is up to date. And then the third hybrid idea I have are just simply like individual tools. I'll link a few of these in the description down below. But in our student ministry, like I said, we did a video called 3 Ways to Ruin Your School Year. And it was basically don't connect with God. And so in the reverse, we gave them 3 connections with God ideas: memorizing scripture, reading the Bible, and spending time in prayer. And we created just a downloadable resource for them to use and utilize on their phone. It also pointed them and pushed them towards like apps or YouVersion Bible reading plans. So if you want to see some of those, you can check those out. But those are just ideas, right, of things that you can help put in your students' hands. You can print physical copies if you want. You can also offer a digital version of it on your website or in an email download. And if you have like an actual communications like marketing department, you can put those behind like handshake websites where people have to put their name and email in, and you can use that to start building lists and things like that, which is a really good marketing practice. But if you don't want to know how to do that and you don't have a communications department, you can just put free resources on your website for people to grab however and whenever. But what about like the challenge? What is difficult about doing this? Because I hear you on the other side of this video. Don't have time. No way I can do this. Great. We're going to address that in the next section. So like, I get it. This is a lot. And as I'm explaining this, you're like, bro, I don't have time to do any of this. I know it's a lot of work. In fact, there's a tension, an inherent tension that will lie when you choose to enter into a hybrid space. The best example I have is the church I worked at before here. I started at on the very first day of COVID. I don't recommend that as a strategy, but I don't know how any of you can avoid that if you're taking a new job. But because I started on the first day of COVID, the very first thing that I did, that we did, that our church did, that our student ministry did, was launch a YouTube channel. Well, they already had a YouTube channel, but launch a YouTube show. We called it Unscripted. And like most churches during COVID, it was a in-person programming youth ministry replacement. And it was innovative. It was like one of a kind. I really did not see a lot of other churches doing like a full-on like show, direct to camera, not just camera in the back of the room. Like there was a lot of like power behind it. There was a lot of creative team members, videographers, contractors that were working on it. But then, as you know, slowly COVID started to kind of wind down. In-person became more and more of a thing. And we started having more and more students back on campus and back in the room. But Unscripted didn't go anywhere. In fact, we wanted to let Unscripted kind of serve as like the small group, like teaching moment in multiple in-person small group meetings in various host home locations throughout the city. That lent itself better for geography. We were in a mega church, and so a lot of people drove many, many miles to our church. And so we could put houses, 20 minutes away from the campus, but closer to where students lived. We could also offer groups on multiple days of the week. As you know, students are super, super duper busy. It was a really, really, and because COVID had ushered us into this moment, it allowed us the chance to sort of rethink and reinvent how we disseminated our teaching and got the Bible into the hands of our small group leaders and into the hands of our children. But more and more people were clamoring for on-campus stuff, especially in light of COVID. And so this tension between, is this good for the show? Is this good for online? Is this good for YouTube? Versus, is this what's best for in the room? Became this like tension, and ultimately became insurmountable to the point where the show got canceled. Now, the downside, like the real thing, the real rub you got to answer is like, we have kids sitting right in front of us every single week. Is YouTube the best strategy for those kids? Because that's probably got to be your number one priority, right? But the challenge is that there's going to be a tension between the online and the in-person constantly. And it's going to be so easy when it feels so insurmountable that you just say, forget it. I can't worry about the online anymore. I just got to focus on the in-person. And I don't necessarily have a formula or an answer for you, but what I do know is that there were some times where we did some things where we faced a challenge and we were tempted to just be like, you know what, forget it. That's not the priority here. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to lean in and we're going to figure this thing out. And so one of my favorite things, in fact, I have a game that sort of tried to mimic it. It's not as good, though, because it's not like a full-on show with our youth pastors and their personalities. But it's called Duck Duck Trivia. And it's where you play Duck Duck Goose in a circle. But in the meantime, there's a trivia game happening on the screen. I have it on DYM, but we did a version of it with our show. And anytime you heard a squeak with one of the like rubber ducks that we had, people had to get up and play Duck Duck Goose in the room while also paying attention to the screen and playing trivia. I created like a sheet, a downloadable note sheet for them to like keep track of and take notes of, right? Like the point I'm making with all that is that there was a way to win in the room and win online, and it was epic. You know what I mean? Like, but you got to spend more time and you got to think outside the box, right? You can't just throw like a four corners game out on the screen and be like, that's going to crush on YouTube. It just might not. The other challenge of it is just going to be a time constraint challenge, right? digital media, video editing, graphic design soaks up a lot of time. And if you're a lone ranger, if you're a one-man band, if you're doing this on your own, bro, I get it. You're going to be spending a lot of time on it. And again, the temptation is going to be to just throw it out. Throw the baby out with the bathwater, don't need it anymore. But if you lean into it, you can find some good on the other side of the mountain there. The fact is, you just have to value it. Your church has to value it. Your supervisor has to value you spending your time on it. And notice and point out and know that it is making a difference, even if it's not seen and felt immediately right away. And that's the third shadow side, right? You have to kind of determine your win with this, because the payoff for digital is not immediate, right? And you have to answer questions like, is this to reach outsiders? Is this to serve and help mature our insiders? What is the real reason behind this? But here's my thing. Because of what Jeremiah said in Jeremiah chapter 29, I do believe we should invest in where we are. So I think out of this video, I'd love to encourage you. I'd even love to hear from you. Comment below. But what's one next action step that you're going to take today? Maybe it's just like, you know what? I'm going to stop just only posting announcement graphics to my Instagram. I'm going to start leaning in a little bit to an Instagram strategy. Maybe it's I'm going to launch a YouTube channel. Hit that link in the description, $100 YouTube starter kit. Whatever the case might be, what is going to be your next step? But just start now. But listen, remember, grab my surefire resource, 40 done for you ideas to help you just navigate this. Link in the description or in the show notes, hybridministry.xyz. And right here, this is why every single church needs a strong digital presence. I flesh it out. I explain it. I give you my strategy in this video. It's linked right here on the screen. Go check that out, or go check out this YouTube playlist video teaching you how to start your YouTube channel from scratch. But we're trying to make digital ministry accessible, reachable, possible. So don't forget, and as always, stay hybrid.